So picture this. You were standing on this sprawling, heavily contaminated tract of land in Piketon, Ohio. It's 1954. And the Department of Energy has just fired up this massive, highly classified facility to enrich uranium, for the nation's Cold War nuclear weapons stockpile.
Right, the Portsmouth site.
Exactly. Now, fast forward to today. That same exact piece of land, this retired nuclear waste site that's been undergoing decades of environmental remediation, is slated to become something completely different.
And by different, you mean basically the largest artificial intelligence data center campus on Earth.
Literally the largest. We are talking about a staggering $37.5 billion investment.
Which is, it's a scale of capital and concrete that almost defies comprehension.
It really does.
When you look at a figure like $37.5 billion, you're no longer just looking at a construction project, You're looking at what could honestly be the defining infrastructure event of the decade. Yeah. And for you, the construction business owner listening right now, this is a seismic shift, because before you start looking at bidding schedules or forming joint ventures or scaling up your heavy machinery fleet,
you really need to understand the stark difference between the reality on the ground and these breathless corporate headlines.
Precisely.
And that is exactly our mission today. We want to break down this monumental construction announcement for 2026 in this deep dive and help you separate the massive hype from the concrete reality.
Because the numbers being thrown around by the developers are just wild.
Oh, they're completely insane.
Yeah.
Like, we are looking at an estimated 35,000 construction jobs at peak.
Wow.
Right. And two of the biggest EPC firms on the planet, Bechtel and Kiewit, have been named to lead the charge.
Which tells you a lot right there.
It does. Yeah. And here's the real kicker. This data center is so massive and requires so much electricity to run its servers that it actually doubles as its own dedicated natural gas power plant.
Which completely flips the script on how we traditionally think about commercial construction. Not to mention utility infrastructure and who actually controls the power grid in this country.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because before we can even question if this project will actually break ground, we have to understand the sheer gravity of what's being promised.
Yeah, let's look at the players involved.
So the developer behind this behemoth is SoftBank. And this isn't just an isolated one-off project for them. It's actually part of a much broader $550 billion investment commitment between Japan and the U.S., stretching out through 2029.
Right. And the specific allocation for this Ohio site, which they are calling the Port Cess Technology Campus, by the way, is that $37.5 billion figure you mentioned.
Yeah.
And to put the physical engineering of that into perspective, the campus is designed for 10 gigawatts of data center capacity.
10 gigawatts? That's just...
It's massive. I want you to really think about the physics of that number. 10 gigawatts is actually more than the entire current United States data center fleet of some major cloud providers.
Wait, really?
Yes, all consolidated onto one single site. To give you a baseline, the entire city of New York draws about 10 to 12 gigawatts on a hot summer day.
That is wild.
So they are trying to build the equivalent of New York City's power draw in rural Ohio.
That is just incredibly hard to wrap your head around. And because you cannot just plug a 10 gigawatt load into the local county wall outlet, they're essentially forced to build their own power generation from scratch.
Exactly. The grid can't handle it.
So the plan calls for 9.2 gigawatts of on-site natural gas power. They're projecting the delivery of 170 GE Vernova gas turbines.
Which is a huge order.
Just the equipment alone, just the hardware is worth roughly $10 billion. Yeah. This isn't just a heavy industrial job. It's like building an entire pop-up city.
Yeah, and that explains why you see firms like Bechtel and Kiewit attached as the EPC leads.
The engineering, procurement, and construction guys.
Right. These are two of the largest construction management entities on Earth. You do not call them in for a standard commercial build or like a warehouse park.
No, definitely not.
You call them in when you are building nuclear power facilities or multi-billion-dollar liquid natural gas export terminals or heavy civil mega projects. The logistical mastery required just to coordinate the deep foundation pours and structural steel for 170 massive gas turbines is immense.
I can't even imagine the supply chain for that.
Every single one of those turbines requires heavy haul road logistics just to transport them from the manufacturing floor to Piketon.
Wait, I need to stop you there and push back on these labor numbers because the math is hurting my head.
Okay, let's hear it.
So two of the biggest EPCs on Earth are managing this, sure. But where are they getting the bodies to actually build it? Look at the famous Intel Fab 52 project out in Ohio.
Oh, yeah, that was huge.
It was a massive deal, literally an ENR project of the year, and it completely tapped out the regional labor pool at about 10,000 workers. SoftBank is projecting 35,000 workers at peak for this new site.
Yeah.
How do you magically find 35,000 skilled tradesmen like pipe fitters, electricians, iron workers in Southern Ohio without completely destabilizing the entire tri-state labor market?
Well, the short answer is you don't.
Right.
And that is exactly the disruption that regional contractors need to prepare for. It creates a massive regional labor vacuum. Every welder and electrician within a 400-mile radius will be pulled toward piked in by the gravity of prevailing wages and massive per diem.
It's just a black hole for skilled labor.
Exactly. This is why having situational awareness is non-negotiable right now. Smart Business Automator's A Market Intelligence report maps these exact Megaproject announcements directly to contractor opportunities.
Oh, that's why.
It allows you to see exactly where the labor, material, and supply chain bottlenecks are going to emerge long before the first shovel even hits the dirt.
Which is exactly what we need to figure out. But before we get to the labor wars, I have to ask the most obvious question about the site itself.
Go for it.
If you are SoftBank and you're building the most advanced tech campus in the history of the world, why on earth would you put it on a former nuclear waste site that has required billions of dollars and decades of ongoing cleanup?
What's fascinating here is that this is not an isolated incident. It's actually a newly emerging, highly calculated pattern.
Really?
Yeah. Tech giants are suddenly acting like heavy industry developers. In fact, this is the second brownfield to data center conversion announced just this week.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
We saw the exact same strategy with Fluor's Kentucky aluminum smelter site project. They are intentionally hunting down these retired, heavily industrialized federal lands.
But the Piketon site is the former Portsmouth gaseous diffusion plant. The Department of Energy has literally been remediating that land for decades to get rid of uranium contamination. Why take on that nightmare headache when you could just buy 1,000 acres of pristine farmland a few counties over?
Because of the physical infrastructure that already exists beneath and above that land. When you are trying to build a 10-gigawatt facility, your biggest enemy is not money.
Right, it's time.
Exactly. Building on a greenfield like that pristine farmland you mentioned means you have to route new high-voltage transmission lines.
Which is a nightmare.
It requires eminent domain battles, environmental impact studies for hundreds of miles of new towers, and rezoning agricultural land for heavy industrial use. That process alone takes a decade of red tape.
Ah, so it really is all about the grid connection.
Precisely. These retired industrial sites have massive built-in advantages. First, the heavy-duty power transmission lines and substations are already physically in place from when the site was pulling massive electrical loads to run the centrifuges for uranium enrichment.
Okay, that makes sense.
The veins connecting to the heart of the national grid are already there. Second, you have large, contiguous acreage under single ownership, meaning you only negotiate with the federal government, not 50 different local farmers.
Right.
And third, the zoning is already locked in for the heaviest industrial use imaginable.
Okay, I hear that. The existing grid connection is definitely the holy grail for data centers right now, especially with AI training requiring, constant, uninterrupted baseload power.
Absolutely.
But I have to push back here again. Does the time you save on zoning and existing power lines actually outweigh the massive physical uncertainties of environmental remediation?
It's a huge gamble.
I mean, we were talking about a former uranium enrichment site. You start digging deep trenches for foundation footings or massive underground liquid cooling lines for server racks. Who knows what you were going to hit in that soil?
You're not wrong.
You hit one pocket of contaminated dirt, and your entire construction schedule stops for 6 months while hazmat teams clear it.
It is a massive calculated risk, absolutely. The EPCs will have to price in staggering contingency funds just for environmental delays.
Right.
But data center developers clearly think the trade-off is worth it. The demand for artificial intelligence processing power is so high that the speed to market getting those servers online even 1 year faster trumps the remediation risks.
That just shows how desperate they are for power.
And Smart Business Automator's market intelligence report is currently identifying similar brownfield site opportunities in your specific region, precisely because this strategy of targeting old industrial grid connections is becoming the new baseline standard for the industry.
So if a site used to smelt aluminum or forge steel,
tech companies want it now.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because as much as this sounds like a done deal, and as much sense as the brownfield strategy makes on paper, there is a massive elephant in the room.
Oh, there definitely is.
When you actually dig into the paperwork for this $37.5 billion behemoth, there is no paperwork. Absolutely no construction permits have been filed yet with Pike County. Nothing with the state of Ohio.
And that is the ultimate reality check for any contractor salivating over this announcement.
Right. Like, hold your horses.
Exactly. Not only are there no local construction permits, but there is no PJM interconnection application submitted yet. And that is the true gatekeeper.
For those who don't know, what is PJM?
PJM is the regional transmission organization that coordinates the movement of wholesale electricity across 13 states in that region. If you want to pull or push massive amounts of power to the grid, you have to get in their queue and be mathematically studied.
And getting in that queue is not exactly a quick process, right?
Not at all. The grid operates on a delicate balance of supply and demand at exactly 60 hertz. If you suddenly inject or withdraw 10 gigawatts of power without upgrading the surrounding infrastructure, you don't just trip a local breaker.
Right, you take down the whole system.
You can cause voltage collapse and rolling blackouts across 3 states. Because of this, the PJM grid operators have to run incredibly complex load flow and thermal limit models to see exactly how your project will stress the existing system.
Which takes years.
Right now, that PJM queue is backed up 3 to 5 years just to get large projects studied and approved.
Yeah.
You cannot just bypass the laws of physics with a press release.
Right, which makes this whole announcement feel a bit like a developer selling VIP tickets to a 100-story penthouse on a skyscraper that is already swaying in the wind.
That's a great analogy.
They haven't even checked if the city's water pipes can reach the first floor, let alone run the structural calculations for the roof, but they're already bragging about the view.
Yeah, and we have to look at the track record of the players involved here. SoftBank has a notorious history of making incredibly ambitious, multi-billion-dollar investment announcements globally that do not always materialize at their fully stated scale.
They definitely like to make a splash.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this announcement might be more of a strategic flag-planting exercise than an immediate construction-ready site. By announcing the largest campus on Earth, SoftBank signals to the market, to the U.S. government, and to their semiconductor partners that they are fully committed to winning the AI infrastructure race.
It's a flex.
Exactly. But structurally, that $37.5 billion figure includes power generation that will likely be phased in very slowly over a decade. They might build a 1 gigawatt facility first, prove the concept, and expand from there. It will not be built all at once tomorrow.
So what does this all mean for the ground game? Let's talk directly to you, the construction business owner listening right now.
Yeah, let's bring it back to the boots on the ground.
How do you approach this strategically? Because even with all those red flags, the lack of permits and the PJM delays, you cannot just ignore a project of this magnitude in your backyard.
You absolutely cannot ignore it. Because let's do the math on the worst case scenario. Even if SoftBank only builds 50% of what they just announced, if they only build 5 gigawatts instead of 10, it still remains an $18 billion construction opportunity.
Which is still massive.
The demand for prime contractors and sub-tier contractors across Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia is going to be immense. But the key is understanding the phasing.
Let's break that phasing down.
Ooh.
Because it is not just going to be tech-focused server installers on day one. If they are building their own natural gas power plant, the skills needed initially are incredibly broad and very dirty.
Exactly. The first wave is heavy civil engineering. Before a single server rack arrives, contractors have to prep a contaminated brownfield site.
Which takes a ton of heavy machinery.
That means massive earth-moving operations, soil stabilization, and pouring hundreds of acres of reinforced concrete pads just to hold those GE Vernova turbines.
And then what?
Then you need the power plant construction specialists, boiler makers, pipe fitters, high-voltage electricians. Only after the power generation is stabilized do you start seeing the massive influx of data center MEP the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing contractors.
And the MEP for an AI data center is completely different from a standard office building.
Totally different.
We are talking about miles of specialized liquid cooling pipe work to keep the AI chips from melting down, massive HVAC air handling units, and redundant structural steel power busways.
And we haven't even touched the secondary infrastructure.
Oh man, the surrounding towns.
Right. When you drop a project this size into rural Pike County, the existing local municipal infrastructure simply cannot support it. You are going to see massive separate municipal contracts issued just for upgrading local two-lane roads to handle the continuous convoy of heavy-hauled trucks bringing in those turbines and steel beams.
That makes total sense.
The county will need immediate water line extensions, sewage capacity expansion, and electrical substations just to support the construction phase itself.
Which brings us back to what I call the man camp problem. You mentioned 35,000 peak workers earlier.
Yeah.
Pike County, Ohio, does not have the housing, the hotels, or the grocery stores for 35,000 temporary workers. Where do they sleep? Where do they eat?
It's a huge issue.
The logistical nightmare of just sustaining the human beings building this site is a multi-million-dollar industry on its own.
And it creates a massive ripple effect on project economics. Because there is no local housing, the prime contractors will have to build temporary housing man camps or pay exorbitant per diems to incentivize workers to drive 2 hours each way.
Which drives up costs everywhere.
That immediately inflates the regional prevailing wage. If you are a local contractor trying to build a hospital or a high school 3 counties over, you are suddenly competing against the bottomless pockets of SoftBank for the exact same plumbers and electricians.
How does a local or regional business possibly prepare for that kind of scale without getting crushed?
It's really tough.
If a local concrete guy wants a piece of this action, they can't just bid on a $500 million sub package. They don't have the bonding capacity for it.
That is exactly the hurdle. Bechtel and Kiewit demand massive surety bonds and enforce strict risk transfer flow-down clauses. If you cause a delay, you pay for it.
Wow.
For regional players, the strategy is forming joint ventures. 3 or 4 regional concrete or MEP firms will have to combine their balance sheets and pool their bonding capacity just to pre-qualify for the initial bid packages.
That's a really smart play.
This raises an important question about operational elasticity for you as a business owner, because the worst thing a regional contractor can do right now is let the excitement dictate their capital expenditures.
Right. Don't go on a spending spree yet.
If you go out and buy a fleet of new excavators and hire 50 new guys based on a SoftBank press release, only to sit around for 3 years waiting for a PJM grid approval, the carrying costs on that equipment will bankrupt you.
You'll be dead in the water before the project even starts.
Preparation is everything, but it has to be mathematically sound preparation. You need to be ready to scale up your administrative and project management capabilities the precise second those actual legal permits clear.
Exactly. When a mega project like this does finally break ground, the paperwork multiplies exponentially.
Oh, it's a mountain of it.
You want your back office to be able to handle the sudden, massive volume of fantasy mint. Requests for information, technical submittals, safety logs, and daily progress reports, without your operations team collapsing under the weight of the bureaucracy.
Precisely. And this is where relying on verified, actionable data makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report highlights workforce planning tools that can help contractors scale their back office efficiently for this exact kind of mega project demand.
That's super valuable.
It allows you to manage that massive influx of coordination and risk transfer without drowning in administration. You stop watching the press releases and start watching the actual legal permit polls.
It really is about being agile and preserving your capital. You have to keep your powder dry, form your joint ventures now, but have your supply chains and your technology stack ready to fire the moment the ground actually breaks.
Absolutely. And as we step back and look at the whole board, I want to leave you with a broader thought to ponder, one that goes far beyond just Piketon, Ohio.
Let's hear it.
We are witnessing a fundamental shift in the landscape of American infrastructure. Data centers are no longer just passive, quiet buildings plugging into the municipal power grid and paying a monthly bill.
No, they're too big for that now.
By necessity, because the grid cannot support them, they are becoming their own independent power plants and utility ecosystems. What happens to the traditional construction industry and to our national grid strategy when massive technology companies effectively become the new unregulated power companies of the 21st century?
Man, that is the multi-billion-dollar question.
Right.
The lines between a tech campus and a heavy industrial utility are completely blurring, and the contractors who understand that first will win the bids.
Spot on.
But as a project realist, here is my final piece of advice for you. Keep your eyes locked on the actual construction permit filings in Pike County and actively watch that PJM application queue.
That's the real indicator.
Talk is cheap, even when it is $37 billion worth of talk. But once those legal documents hit the public record and the environmental bonds are posted, this project is real, and the starting gun has officially fired.
Be ready when it does.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe to Scaling Legends on your preferred podcast platform. Please rate, review, and share this with your team or colleagues who would benefit from the discussion. And to scale your business without drowning in paperwork, using tools like Smart Document Organization, daily log summaries, and schedule risk detection, visit smartbusinessautomator.com.